Hey, what's going on guys, it's Chum here, and today I'm going to be teaching you some very important tips that will help you achieve victory when playing Meltdown Mode in Battleborn. First things first, let's explain how Meltdown works. In Meltdown, you score points by guiding your minions into the minion grinders on the other side of the map. The first team to reach 500 points wins, and if neither team reaches this goal by time up, the team with the most points wins. Simple enough. Now each map is divided into 2 lanes, and each lane has 4 grinders, 2 closer to the middle of the map, and 1 on each team's side of the lane. Earlier in the game, you are required to have your minions reach the grinder closer to the middle of the map. Once your team reaches a score of 250 however, that first grinder will shut down and you will now have to guide your minions into enemy territory. Continuing on the topic of lanes, we have our first tip, divide and conquer. The key to success in Meltdown is to defend both lanes. I have seen way too many teams try to place the entire team on one lane, and that strategy is very easily countered by having 4 players hold of the 5-player lane, and having 1 player guide the minions on the unprotected side. Instead, what you need to do is have your team actively defend both lanes, and given that each team has 5 players, you can't split evenly, and instead, you need to keep on your toes and switch between lanes when necessary. And that brings us to our second tip, choose your lane wisely. While moving between lanes is important, you must not do so randomly. Instead, you should be evaluating each lane to see which one needs you more. There are a lot of things to take into account when choosing which lane you should play. Firstly, you should try to ensure that each lane has enough players to combat the enemy team. If you notice that a teammate on the other lane is outnumbered 3 to 1, then it might be a good idea for you to help them fight back, or ask another member of your team who's better suited for the job to do so. Another thing to take into account is what heroes are in the lane. We all know that some heroes work great together, and if you happen to have your hero's perfect partner on your team, it is always a good idea to stick with them. One thing you may not know however is that due to the layout of these lanes, they can sometimes give one hero the advantage over another. If you feel like an enemy hero has the advantage over you, then it's probably advised that you change lanes. Now that you know what lane you should be in, let's talk about controlling the lane. In a general sense, your job is to help your minions kill enemy minions and protect them from enemy heroes at the same time. There are lots of different ways to help your minions defeat enemy minions, and one of them is our third tip, buy lane structures. As many of you may know, there is a turret placed in the middle of each lane. Buying this turret is invaluable for helping your minions push, as it will give them the advantage over the enemy minions without your input, meaning you can shift your focus more towards keeping enemy heroes away from your minions. In addition to the turret, each lane has 2 accelerators, which are structures that increase friendly movement speed, and when upgraded further decrease enemy movement speed and attack speed. These are great for helping your minions push, because they reach their target faster, and when they engage enemy units near the accelerator, they will have the clear advantage. Accelerators are great for helping you push enemy minions back when the enemy team has more lane control than you, and in the situation that you have more lane control, buying the enemy accelerator could give you the final push you need to help your minions reach the grinder that is deep in enemy territory. Now that you know how to push forward, let's talk about how you defend. Let's go back to the example earlier and pretend you are the player who was alone up against 3 enemies. Unlike many other shooters, jumping in and trying to kill all 3 enemies is nearly impossible, and will only ever go your way if your enemies are oblivious or all one hit away from death. Instead, you should follow our 4th tip, which is retreat to preserve your life. Once you've retreated, from a distance you should focus your ranged attacks and skills on enemy minions. Knowing that it is very unlikely that you will get a kill makes attacking the enemies pointless. However, killing enemy minions will reduce the amount of points that the enemy team will get for their push. In the case that you're playing a melee hero, this strategy will be less effective, because you are forced to only use your ranged skills. However, staying alive is still more beneficial, because once backup arrives, you can easily take out the heroes who may have overextended while pushing. Now that we've talked about defensive strategies, let's talk about overextending. Overextending is the act of pushing too far into the enemy's defenses. I see way too many players doing this in order to kill a fleeing enemy, only to die themselves. Now this brings us to our 5th and final tip, let enemies flee. While it can be so tempting to chase after an enemy who is a few hits away from death, this is rarely your best course of action. By following someone as they flee, you are removing yourself from the battle for lane control, meaning that both teams will be down a player. If you were to remain behind, not only would your team now have the hero advantage on your lane, but it is also very likely that the remaining heroes will be pressured into retreating as well. This player advantage can easily last for 20 to 30 seconds, or even more if the enemy doesn't choose to teleport back to base and get a quick heal. This 30 seconds could be crucial in getting the minion wave to the grinder and a bunch of points on the board. Alright guys, this brings us to the end of this Battleborn Meltdown guide. I hope you guys learned something, and if you have your own tips for Meltdown, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, and if you want to see more videos like this as they come out, you can hit that beautiful red subscribe button. Now that we're finished here, you might be wondering what you should watch next, and I have two suggestions for you. On the left we have our beginner guide for Battleborn, which has some really useful tips for players who are unfamiliar with MOBAs. And on the right we have a guide similar to this one, but of course for the incursion versus mode. Either way, I want to thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.